kick it off, tell you how WISP was formed, and then share some perspectives on what the group is all about. If any of y'all want to go ahead and start, go for it.
Chelsea, why don't you start with defining WISP?
WISP stands for Whimsical Inspired Spiritual Practices. And that's what we named the group to collaborate on our insights on swimming through the quantum fields of love.
And I would add to that the spirit of it, it was like we just knew that that we were connected in some way, that we were having very powerful conversations, that were moving, that were elevating, enhancing, creating more buoyancy. And then we started to understand, or at least this was my perspective, that these kind of conversations are totally new world kind of conversations. So it's not competitive against each other, it's competitive with each other. So if one person shares a perspective, then the other minds within it are looking for ways to look at it from a different point of view to create an even grander or broader perspective.
So yeah,
it's like I just want to add that, as we're also demonstrating by example, the Aquarian expression of unity. So it's collaboration together, but we're all, individually contributing. So it's that Aquarian expression.
Yeah, it's having that open mind, and trying to understand each other's perspectives instead of only thinking that one perspective is right. It's trying to understand. It's diving a little bit deeper into multiple perspectives and then kind of maybe forming a new one or just accepting the differences. Yeah.
Cool. And for me, it's just a matter that I feel as if I hold very good quality perspectives, but it makes me realize I'm not alone, and people are carrying around even better ideas of perspective. And so it's always, to me, it's like the final polishing of the gemstone that you're creating. And so for me, I will change my perspective. If somebody's got a better perspective than I do, I'll take your perspective in a heartbeat, because I'm always wanting and searching for the best perspective. And I made that distinction for myself when we were in conversation the other day. Somebody said, I had said, no, I'm going to share something, a perspective. And somebody says, no, that's your opinion. And then I tried to clarify what I was talking about. And they're like, oh yeah, yeah. So you're willing to let your belief go, or this perspective go. Yeah. And that's exactly what it was. So you could redefine opinion if you wanted to, that an opinion can change and evolve. But I prefer just to get out of that conversation altogether and say that I no longer hold opinions. I don't need, if I'm going to hold an opinion, it's going to be a ridiculous opinion. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? What color jerseys are the best for the teams? And it's going to be fun and it's going to be playful. But as far as like holding an opinion about politics or anything like that,
things that don't matter.
And I understand that perspective is what is going to make my experience better, and it makes, as my perspective gets better, it makes everything better for everybody else.
Yep. Beautiful. You want to touch on? I mean, that's a good summary of, I guess, Lenzafarianism. Did you want to dive deeper
Mm,
into that?
mm. Yeah, so and that's a really interesting thing because we've had time to talk about it, and Chelsea and I found just terminology, Lenzafarianism, and there was many reasons behind that. One was it's like we are connected to what I call paradigm A, and these collaborative and collective agreements that we have with each other. So it's like we're always kind of measuring, we're being asked to measure our experience by already created structure, like liberal, conservative. And then it's my duty to go out and figure out who am I and where do I fit within this construction. Same thing as, do you believe in God? Are you an atheist? Are you a deist? Are you secular? Or whatever it is. And people always want to have your label so they know where to put you. And so one of the reasons that Lenzfarianism came up was because it was a fun name, and it literally was like, this is Lenzfarianism, like lens simply means that we can change our perspective. So we all have a different perception of the world. Chelsea's got one, Rose got one, I've got one. Where how we perceive the world, but we can't. The thing that we can actually change and dial in is perspectives. So if if let's say my day is has dips in it because of a belief system that I have in it, I could be in conversation with Reaux and he would drop a different perspective on me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never looked at it like that. And all of a sudden, what was resistance and a lower vibration, I, I've collaborated with somebody else in the outside world that allowed me to tweak the perspective in which I'm receiving the data into the world and my daily life, and it ups my now. It makes me higher vibe more of the time. And so Lenzfarianism, we found that we don't we can look at the things that we want rather than trying to always look at the problems that we have to fix. So the idea of Lenzfarianism is that we focus our attention on the sensations that feel good to us. And the whole idea is that if there's anything wrong, or if there's a duality, or if there's an ego self, it isn't. It is simply a twisting of those good sensations, like kindness or sincerity or joy or happiness, all these different sensations. So Lenzfarianism was a different approach to um, living in the world. By what we're saying, the way to do it is by changing your perspective so that you can have a better ride, and you can find things like the things that we have found is the greatest love of all that I have found so far is the love of life itself. And some people would call that God, some people call that spirit, some people would call that source, some people would call that the universe. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. I'm sure Chelsea has something that she can
I,
offer. And
Yep.
hello, QZ.
Hey,
hi,
yeah,
Keith.
Zach just joined.
My
Yeah,
my addition to James with Lenzafarianism is also going to be pointed at the Safarian part. So as we understand, safari is like it's a travel to safari, to travel. What else does safari bring up within us? Maybe like explore or being adventurous, like really adventurous. So it's like how we are going into looking for these different perspectives. Safari is how we're doing it. We're doing it with an explore, a wonder kind of approach. So it's how we're looking for perspective is very important to us as well. That we have this openness and this eyes of wonder. So that's what I just want to add in.
Awesome. We have Zach. He just joined us. If we're kind of weighing in on Lenzaparianism and understanding the group dynamics of WISP. Or if you wanted to just add anything else, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I tell you, I am off to a slow start this morning.
That's okay.
I seem to be both here and there, which was one of the things I thought would be a good thing to practice, is being both here and there, but now I'm not so sure. Yeah, what else? So the only thing I can add is that I've been fascinated with the Matrix movie, but I can't get into that just yet. But it shows a lens into another reality that we could, another perspective, I should say, that we could use. That would be the perspective of Morpheus and Neo and the crew, as opposed to the view that we might tend to rely on in the Matrix itself. So I'm just going to leave it there for now.
Yeah, that's kind of something that's been popping up a lot lately, as far as people that are still stuck in that mentality or enslaved in that Matrix system. I feel that those that have awoken can now see the bubble that they're kind of within. They're still in division, fighting each other, and I guess basically more focused on what's wrong and the lower vibration stuff instead of coming together, or they think they're participating in something that's going to support them, but really it's enslaving them. But I've just been able to kind of witnessing either family members or friends that are still focused on like politics and thinking that, oh, if my side wins, then I'm right and you're wrong. But there's always that constant pitting the people against each other instead of coming together and trying to do what's best for the collective. Everyone is like in that lower 3D mindset when they're stuck in the Matrix. But once you break free of it, you kind of see it for what it is, and it's a tool for those that want to stay asleep. One movie that I kind of like recommending is The Kid Who Would Be King. It's like a kids movie, but it shows the two different sides that are fighting each other, but then they end up coming together to fight the evil that is trying to keep them divided and separated. So it's about the two sides coming together and working together as one cohesive unit for the greater good. But anyways, yeah.
A lot of duality in that old
Right.
Matrix thinking, which for some reason it seems to be almost addictive, I guess.
Yeah.
Us,
Well,
us
people are comfortable in discomfort, I guess, in their own misery. They choose a comfortable hell over an unfamiliar heaven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder with the laws of correspondence, as above, so below, as without, so within. If when we are understanding and watching this duality war zone happening, that is, if we understand that it's the when we go to the micro within, and we have the duality of the battle within ourselves, within our ego and the soul, fighting it out for who's going to have authority or the superior agency over the body. Then we look at this expression that's happening macroly in the world. So could we look at it as positive? Because when the waters are still, but the polarities are kind of going, those waters are running deep and they're still at odds with each other. When things come up and there's now interaction to where there's friction and explosions happening, this means that those stillness is now getting thrushed up. And so because of the large expressions of duality that's being expressed in the world, it could be looked as the crescendo to the oneness that comes after that fight is over.
Yes.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, looks like Zach wants to go ahead.
No, you go ahead, James. I was just mumbling.
Oh, gotcha. So, yeah. And so one of the ahas I had from this vision quest that we had was being in service. When I found what I call paradigm B, what we call paradigm B, what it can be named Christ consciousness, unconditional love, this other paradigm where there's collaboration, not competition. And one of the things is this was a big relief valve for me. Like I felt like I'm out of this heaviness is really what it is. I've always been very realistic, like tangibly tell me, or how am I going to experience things? And what I have found with paradigm B is that it goes right along with enlightenment. It is because that enlightenment is kind of this carrot for people that we romanticize this idea of being enlightened. When you just simplify it down to a simple idea, it simply means to lighten the fuck up. And that is like people would say you need to raise your vibration, and that used to drive me nuts because I was like, tangibly, I don't know what that is. I don't know what it means. So I just try to be happy all the time. But once I did enough spiritual work, found the present moment, found keys like being told, watch value judgments. And so I started paying attention to my mind that needed to make value judgments about everything and keep this register of I like this and I don't like this. I think this is right and I think this is wrong. And, defending my, here's a ridiculousness, defending my opinion on different types of cheeses. It's like you start to realize how ridiculous all of that kind of clutter that's in our minds. And so my big aha was I got my little vacation from paradigm A, and it was like, okay, what's my deal here? Like, what am I here to do? Well, I'm here just to enjoy life and enjoy what's going on. And what recently happened to me was a message that was pretty strong that it said, it's time for you to serve. And so it is that ushering in. So when I'm hearing about like the people that are not understanding that, or that are still choosing a heavy experience, it's for us. It's for us that have gone through the fires, that we understand in paradigm A that it's a story. And it's just being egocentrically creating a story in which way you live so that you are the hero. But the only thing that I would, and so I had this vision, and I've been wanting to introduce this to WISP, is like, because I really like tangible things. So if we're moving to a lighter beingness, like much more being rather than doing, then there's a lighter touch to it. So it was interesting during a talk that we talked about death, we talked about grief, and there were a lot of people that, like me, that had this notion that when we look at grief and process grief, grief actually spins and it turns into joy. So just an example is that if you were to lose a loved one, yes, the pain of going through that loss is a part of the process. But the seed that you seed yourself with when you're going through that was very different. So there were a lot of people like me that said grief will turn to joy. You just can't see it. Like that's the steps you go through it, and it will turn into. It's like, to me, what I told my daughter was like, when you do that, when you go through the grief, and we were talking about some pets that she lost in a short amount of time. I said, then all of the love that you had between those pets returns. And then that becomes your reality, is this joy. Well, there were other people in this group that were going through grief, and their perspective was, this pain will never cease. It will always be a scar on your soul that you will have to drag through reality with you. And I use this as a really philosophical term, but I have this idea that we can look at paradigm B as an upticking perspective. So the better beliefs that we have, the more they uptick, and they leave us with hope, or not hope, but like there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Then what we do is we just keep expanding, and that's what this group, and this is an example of us speaking with each other about our ideas, and I'm excited to hear you guys' thoughts on these ideas, is when we do this, we keep getting the upticking. It's like, if Reaux gives me that idea about one piece of my resistance in the day, what he's doing is he's adding to my vibration. He's adding to my vibes. And I then can hold a lighter touch with reality. Whereas somebody who takes an idea like, this pain of loss is going to be there all my life, it's a down-ticking perspective. And what do you have to do if you choose a down-ticking perspective? Well, from the ego's perspective, you will create and live within the story that you are the hero carrying your burden. And so your story, whenever you ask, will always be your sorrow. It will always be the story. And you can't let go of that story, because that's the fundamental meaning that you've created for your life and your experience. So simply looking at Lenzaparianism is about the individual finding perspectives that point to an upward trajectory rather than a lower trajectory, a lower vibe. So to me, like, this understanding really helps me understand when somebody says a high vibe. It's like, that was my thing last night, was just thinking about you guys. It's like, why are we attracted to one another? Not just because we intellectually have cool things to share with each other, but we're vibrating at a high vibe, and we are attracted to high vibes. And it seems that our conversations always enhance our nows. It's like, always welcome. We call them fresh bread conversations. Smells so good, and you feel good, and you just tasted the best delight ever. So the upticking happens. So yeah, I'm interested in hearing you guys' thoughts.
Well, I mean, us helping each other understand something or solidifying truths we're building that strong foundation of truth in order to create the reality that we desire. So that's why, like, when we're collaborating, we're usually vibing on the same wavelength, or we're helping enhance each other's perspectives, or helping to create new ones. But it's all about the greater good, or the having a better experience, or looking at an experience from a different perspective, like grief. Losing someone it can be devastating, but there's a lesson there. There's beautiful expression of love there. To lose someone and feel that grief is just the amount of love that you had for that person in their absence. So the grief is just unspent love that you still had for that person. It's not saying that you're never going to interact with that energy again, or you're never going to see that individual again. It's just that we're here having a temporary experience in an infinite expanse of consciousness. And we chose to go through these experiences in order to value that love even more. Yeah, that's what I have to say on that. Kelsey or Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to just kind of try to simplify what we're talking about. Paradigm A and paradigm B is an easy way to distinguish between, shall we say, the matrix and outside of the matrix. Or what's just come to me is, if you're in that paradigm A mindset, that it's normal to have down ticking. That's like, it's an accepted norm that that's a bad day and it's probably going to get worse or whatever. Where in paradigm B, it's normal to have an upticking. So just by having paradigm B conversations, there's an inherent upticking that occurs. I think you touched on that already, James. And it begins to bring some of that joy into the heart, as it were. It starts to bring some joy into the experience of life as it is in this moment. It would be one way to say that. And yeah, let me leave it there for a minute.
Well,
With just in addition to the A and B understanding, that it's at the one of the foundation aspects that we're kind of all identifying is it's architecture. So we have an old mindset and we have a new mindset. We have old architecture, we have new architecture. When you walk in a dilapidated house that's falling off its foundation, you feel it. It doesn't feel secure. Your perspective, what you're looking at is probably not looking so great. So it's different architecture altogether.
yeah, I agree.
And that's the exciting part for me, was just recently, like, understanding B for quite some time, since 2020. But then just being like, how do I fit in? What am I supposed to do? The things that I desired to do before in paradigm A, I didn't have those desires to do them anymore. I used to want to be a guru and a philosopher and a minister and speak the truth. And like, that just all went away. And then I was like, no, but I still want to interact. I still want to talk about these things. And what's so cool is that we've been connecting into what seems to be the beginning stages of that architecture becoming together. We're starting to agree about things like 5D, new world, new earth, non-duality. These themes are coming in, and what's interesting is they've probably always been there in some form, But now there's a real collective collaboration with bringing a lot of these terms together. So like Christ consciousness is a new one that's been popularized. And Christ consciousness is, to me, it is, if you just look at Jesus's teachings, he was a non-dual teacher. Be as the lilies in the field. You know, that can be an aesthetic, be a beautiful aesthetic. It can also mean be present and just do your thing, do the thing that you meant to come to. And so all of these little pieces are coming together, and really what we're just diagnosing and pulling down is that paradigm A is created on a, you could call it what, like a subset reality. And this would be interesting if Zach can go into this, is like that there's this layer of reality that we have a relativity point, which is what we call our identity. And so we all, in that state, we're always fighting for our worth by what we accomplish, what we call ourselves, what little shiny badge we put on, and then we impress people with our morals, and without recognizing our smug righteousness behind those kind of things. So when you start letting go of the framework that Chelsea was talking about and start seeing this new dream coming in, it's getting so exciting because we're tapping in and we're realizing that other people are collaborating with this new dream and this new architecture that is coming together, because it's been very abstract. Chelsea and I have been so confused by everything, reading every philosopher, every, you know, spiritual teaching and psychology and all of these things. And then you back up and you realize that it's all very simple. It is simply dropping identities. It is about having a new relationship with our minds, where our minds are not who we are. They are just a tool that allow us to interact with the world. And the thing was, in Paradigm A, we just really utilized the protector in us. And the thing that we were protecting was our identity. But we can have that mind, but we can lessen that and open up these other aspects of our minds, which I know for me was creativity. As soon as I started getting a little space between my thoughts, all of a sudden I had thoughts that I have no idea where they came from. And yeah.
Yeah. So again, I'm just loving the concept of simplifying the conversation. I'm seeing paradigm A as that duality existence, but that duality exists within the mind. Now, there's still some duality going on when you begin to transcend the mind and drop into the heart, using that term. And that process, you know, you're still flipping back and forth between the heart and the mind, but at least you're now aware of this other reality, paradigm B, where I'll say the congealing energy is around the oneness that the heart taps into or that it experiences. I'm trying to build on this here. So we're moving out of duality into oneness. We're also moving out of head into heart. It sounds really simple in words, but that process is a big journey. Is the journey, at least been my experience in life. However, there is now more words that I'm coming up with to help direct me back into that heart of oneness. And the latest is subjective, objective. Objective being the one that we can objectify with our minds, and name things, and well, including ourself and our identity, you know. And subjective is a more wordless experience, which is in essence just experience itself. And the thing that I want to share is I had a little bit of a real-time experience of of subjective reality. That was yesterday. I'm just sitting watching the wind blow the bamboo around. It could have been branches on a tree, and there in that moment was that other word that we've come up with. There was qualia in that moment.
I knew that word was coming.
I got to experience the wind blowing on the tree, not just with my eyes and not just with my mind. In fact, that was part of the experience, was just letting go of how I wanted to describe what I was experiencing with the mind, put words on it, and just allow for the experience to express itself in these different qualia, these different parts of my being was experiencing thing. There was a fullness to the experience. Let's just put it that way. There, it had a quality of being, we can say, fully present. We'd understand what that means. But as well, it was a quality of being fully connected to that which I was experiencing. Chelsea would understand what I'm saying when we had that conversation where you could sort of be in two places at once. I could be the bamboo blowing in the wind, and I was the person looking out the window at it at the same time. Anyway, I just realized that awareness is what they talk about in terms of non-duality. Is, you know, you're supposed to let go of all the other stuff and just be the awareness. And it was like, there it was, and it was real. So just wanting to share that it's starting to happen, and sharing that with others brings back the memory and helps me drop a little more fully into this present moment, being able to express that subjective reality that is so blissful. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Wait. We got.
Go
There you go,
ahead.
Chelsea. There you go. Ahead. You're muted, so I unmuted you.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to say that as we're discovering, so this was also what you experienced with the wind and the bamboo and yourself and everything. I was understanding then. I don't know if anyone knows of Caesar, the dog whisperer, but he has this amazing ability. And I'm like, there it is. That's how he's doing it. He's stepping into shared consciousness with the animals. What you just got through doing with the bamboo and the wind, that is stepping into that shared consciousness. And just as you were describing it, then it was like, if we could take a snapshot of the unified field from your point of light in what you're experiencing in the qualia, where you've experienced the whole thing, it would be complete saturation.
Mm-hmm.
There would be no opacity, no gradients. It's just full saturation.
Yeah, like living color. What did they used to call that? Technicolor or something, you know. Not just black and white anymore.
Yeah.
Full saturation.
Full spectrum of light.
So I was, first of all, this conversation is the best I've been able to understand qualia. Chelsea's been using it for a while. She's trying to explain it to me, and it takes me a while to figure it out with a lot of different data, and rightfully so, because it's kind of a very bizarre perspective, a bizarre entanglement with reality that we were not raised to tap into, that we were talked out of, like, if it doesn't fit the productivity and the standing and status within identity, like, we don't want to hear about your weird stuff that's going on. But I would relate that to this idea that had birthed itself, was this idea of the quantum, and how do we tap into it tangibly? What is the method? And the idea of wonder was brought to it, and it was the first thing that came through me was, how do I look at a tree? Like, I can walk by a tree, and be in my head and just go, oh yeah, that's a tree, that's an oak tree or whatever, and it's just a tree. But I can walk by it and I can wonder. And one of the wonderings is, what is the tree trying to accomplish? What is its consciousness doing? What it's at? And so that still was kind of intangible, because it's like you're still playing mind games with yourself, but you really do need to start looking at things differently, start understanding what wonder is. So we watched the movie Mr. Majorium's Wonder Emporium, and that movie is just filled with themes that touch into that wonder-like ability when we were kids, how we would wonder about things and wonder how things got together, and could make a tree into a giant, in our minds. And so what it sounds like, Zach, is that you had this experience of qualia, and it's an experience that's extraordinarily hard to try to explain to people, because you're like trying to use words to something. That was what was so frustrating with me about the definition of qualia, was the fact that we can't use words really to describe it. It's so bizarre. But the beautiful thing is that with these new themes of this new architecture, I'm seeing people talking about quantum and 5D and star seeds, and all of these different movements are starting to say, hey, like, it's people that are just saying, hey, check out my weird experience I had. It's like, and we're now starting to go, okay, yeah, that's weird. I had this weird experience. And we're trying to talk about it. And what it does is, it's like scratching at the idea that we need to be like children and step back into wonder, to understand that there's magic. But we need little pieces of safety that says, hey, I'll start moving towards your idea, as long as you've got some framework, you've got some things that I'll feel safe in. And that's exciting, because it's seeing this dream come into place, and then now seeing all this tangible feedback coming from around the world. And people are telling these weird stories that they're happening. And it's like, gosh, I believe you. I believe Zach. It's like something weird. And it's like, oh man, now it's like, how did Zach get there? And it's like, okay, wonder. I just got to keep going into wonder and listen to Zach and tell us a story. And then you've got like more to jump off of. And that's why, like, I went from being like, okay, I woke up, I feel like my experience as a human is kind of like, now I'm just gonna like have to sit and wait for paradigm A to collapse and or just I will live out the rest of my days being happy and high vibration. And now it's like I feel so there's a tipping point where you're just like, I'm not A anymore. Like I'm not even putting my toes back into A. If I am so on board with the new dream, there's no other decision. There's no other way. In fact, that was my big aha in one of our ceremonies was, you're done. You're done with paradigm A, and you're all in on B, and you better get busy.
The choice is happy or delusional optimism. What was that you used at one point, James?
Oh, I had seen that on a video. Yeah, there was a guy that was, he's a very odd character. He is very well spoken. He's got tattoos all over his body. He self-tattoos himself, tattoos his eyes. And he was talking about all of the hate that he receives about all his, the way he lives his life, his tattoos, how he breaks himself down and everything else. He said that instilled in me the hate. He took it completely the other way, and he's like, I now could consider myself a delusional optimist. And I was just like, oh, I love that term. It's like I'm just completely lost in the delusion and of optimism, and what I got from that was like the hate wasn't navigating his ride. He's like, I'm just going, it just like freed him to be 100% himself.
That's a fun one, delusional optimism. Do any of you feel like the labels are a distraction? Like we have all the different spiritual labels, like, you have star seeds, or people are identifying with different alien races, or just more labels. Does that compound things, or does that make things, I guess, fun or whatnot? I'm not sure where to lead with that, but
It's a good question.
what's that?
Well, it is a good question. I'm not sure how to. I look at it as kind of benign myself because the characteristics of us is wanting to have things understood and then be able to share it with one another. We typically want to try to put some kind of a definition to it. And so I think that part of the old architecture of judgment of how we label things or how we look at things with a label on it is part of that old architecture. And that feeds into maybe a little bit of us understanding how labels create identity, but at the same time, it's still part of that old architecture that's sprinkled in our lens in that perspective. So I don't know that it's wrong or right.
I guess it's just part of whatever reality people are wanting to create, and that's part of the, I guess, the beauty of it. We're each here creating our desired reality. We are the masters of our reality. So depending on what we want to see, there's no right or wrong. It's just a matter of what we are wanting to have as part of our reality. And we'll gravitate towards those that share the exact same experience or similar, or we're okay with differing experiences. But I guess on a quantum level, we're attracting like-minded individuals. But if we want to, I think, grow more, we want to have part of our quantum field is to have that open-mindedness, so that we can expand even further. If we were to just say, "Hey, I am an Arcturian starseed" or something like that, it's like that's our main focus. That's our main. That might be a main like identity or something like that. We're only sticking to the one thing instead of be like, well, I'm all these things. I can be everything. I can be nothing in the same breath. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like, if the different labels could be distracting or limiting, in a sense.
That
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that question because I was always interested when I would listen to Bashar, and who is a channel, if you don't know, and I know you guys do. Um, but people got really interested in the stories about the different races of um, extraterrestrials, the Greys, the Palladians, the Arturians, all of these different kind of things. And what I see about it now, because I just didn't have interest in it, I was like, "What? I don't care." Like that to me is just like a story, and I want to know tangibly. Like I'm here on Earth. Like I want to figure out like how this place works. I want to understand how this works, and and then there you can see times where the same people who are into this are get to talk to them through the channel, and then they're trying to change their mind, and to talking to the Greys. And I remember one lady trying to tell them that they couldn't, that it wasn't right what they were doing, yet didn't realize the irony of telling that to this supposedly non-emotional being. So it's like that emotional invite, like that being wouldn't understand it anyway. So my point is that yes, it like I'm seeing people calling themselves light workers and way showers and star seeds, and I wondered about that because that was a big part of my life, was letting go of all the labels and not using that as a relativity point. And then I started understanding that that it's kind of helpful to kind of know, like, what are you up to? And for if I had to like look at what avatar, like what am I doing in all of this? Am I a star seed, a light worker? Like I feel like I'm a bit of all of those. But way shower would be probably a better description of it. But again, then you get tripped up because you say a way shower, then you think of a guru, and it's like, no, that's not how I see myself. Maybe this just came out of me that it's just entertainment, and I'm an entertainer, and that's the way I entertain. And so yeah, and I think that you could also look at it that one of the, as we move to the new architecture, that there's going to be many different invitations into the B world or the new world. And so some people did it through, like I did it through alchemy, practicing being in the present moment, um, listening to channels to get rid of value judgments. But some people are going to move through it in a different way. And so one of the comforts that you can see in Paradigm A is living inside of stories. So there are characters inside of these stories, and usually you're egocentrically you're the hero of your little mind story. And so ushering in to the new world could be the possibility that the people who really like the comfort of stories are being brought into the conversation in the new world, carrying that story. And eventually, once you're around more people, then you can't help that are telling the story and talking about the architecture and how we're getting there. Like the message is going to get across. So just the fact that people are connecting in lots of different ways to tell the same story, because I've seen like Reaux is part of the Facebook groups that are all about quantum and stuff. And a lot of posts are, very upticking. And it's like, oh yeah, that's for sure. And then you'll watch another post and it's like, that's a down ticking perspective. But the neat thing is everybody's discussing it and everybody's saying, I've seen Reaux like post, and Reaux just has this. The way I see him is he's just got like this arsenal. When he hears somebody with a down ticking perspective, Reaux's just like, ha! And he just has like this foundation that he throws at people that's going, yeah, you can look at it your way or you can look at it this way. And to me, it's challenging that person to go, okay, maybe not this down ticking thing. And then it's not even gonna be translated in just words. It's not just gonna be up ticking or down ticking. It is literally, which I was late to the party on this one, it's vibratory. It's like, hey man, it's your vibes. It's what, the higher the vibe you bring to the table in all time, you are a beacon to raising other people's vibrations. It's like, if you're practicing compassion from the B world, you do not lower your vibration down to somebody who is suffering. You keep your high vibration as a lighthouse and you hold it there for that person. You be that vibration. And that is what I'm recognizing is the healing nature. And I never considered myself a healer. But then I took some inventory over these years where I got this feedback from people. Numerous times I sat down with people and had a talk, and they said, I've been going to a counselor for 2 years, and I got more out of this conversation in one sit down. And I like that happened to me so many times. And I'm just like, well, I don't know what's going on. I can't call myself a healer. And then we had an experience the other night where somebody literally had from something that I shared. I wasn't supposed to be talking. We weren't supposed to be talking during this ceremony, but I had an announcement that needed to be made. And so it came out. I had 25 other announcements, but I was able to keep that under the cone of silence. But these two messages had to come out. And this person said that they were suffering from extreme nausea. And the moment that I delivered my message, it just almost disappeared, almost instantaneously.
Wow.
And at first I was like, I just want to brush it off. But then I'm realizing, man, like I was vibrating so high and the message that was coming out of me was so real and I knew it was fundamental. It was there and it was happening and I was experiencing it. And then there's somebody that instantly gets healed. So it just goes right along with, Jesus, when he said, like, the reason it is not me that's healing. It is your belief in it. And really what it is you're just saying, I believe in your vibration. That's all going, like if I had to give advice to people who are looking for healing, you look for high vibratory people and you believe in that vibe. You believe in that energy. The healer isn't going to heal you. It's your belief in, if you get up to the level and you experience that. That's why I'm saying, like one thing that came to me in the middle of the night last night is, if you want to be healed, don't listen to the words. Mimic the vibe you get. Because I was like, I started taking inventory of all the videos that I post. And it's like, I know that I vibrate a vibration in those videos. And it's like, if you can feel that vibration, and it feels good. I'm not saying that I have that good vibe. I feel it. I feel very light and I feel amazing. But don't trust me. Trust yourself. If you feel that vibratory is there, mimic it. Like, find it for yourself, because you're finding it. If you can feel my vibration, then you're finding it. And then it's just find it, mimic it.
Yeah, the truth will resonate. Yeah.
Right. And the quality possibly is what will be found in that.
Hey, Zach.
I got distracted there for a minute. Sorry about all of. Am I crooked? Yeah, this is. Oh, okay. We'll go back to this one.
You got it, Zach.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Distracted and disoriented, I guess. Um, I I wanted to come back to this simple word subjective and add the word consciousness. So the experience that I had was an experience of subjective consciousness. And of course, that's as opposed to um, the thinking mind, the objective version, the where were we at? Um, yeah. So one of the things I just to elaborate just a minute there, I wanted to put words on the experience that I was having and describe it to myself. That was the efforts of the mind to do what the mind does, is to create a story about what is. And I'm watching that happening or wanting to happen, even as I'm experiencing this subjective experience of consciousness. Let's call it even the quantum field of consciousness, and totally enjoying that sensation because it was more of a body sensation than anything else. And and that's just to help reference the fact that we actually are able to live in these two worlds. And that's why I was saying I was fascinated with the Matrix movie, is Matrix Paradigm A, and then Morpheus and Neo and all those guys in like a Paradigm B perspective on what is going on. And the the word joy is coming to mind. The joy of having the subjective experience was stood on its own. That was what I was noticing. That I didn't need to have a story to explain it. It was real, capital R, real, without any extra commentary from the mind. So what I'm suggesting here is all of our, I shouldn't say all, but I think most of our wordiness is trying to recreate a reality that is not available in the words. It's the concept of making a map to describe the territory. The map isn't the territory. It can be helpful. Words can be helpful, but we're looking for just being out there in the territory, communing with nature, going swimming in the lake or something. That's what we're after, this felt sense of experience. And the word parts are just extra. It's like, yeah, we can throw in some extra words. That's fine. But what we're really looking for is that felt experience or felt sense of the experience of life itself. Yeah. Pause.
Yeah. How are you all handling like the the interacting with others that are maybe not on your frequency or vibration, but are maybe gravitating towards your light, but aren't bringing any light with them. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Like people that we were talking about upticking and downticking. All right, Chelsea, let me make sure you're. Yep. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I wanted to just share real quick on with that, and I'm bringing in the Matrix since it's been referenced, the movie, and how I look at the Matrix movie now is a little different from the architect's point of like if the architect has superposition. So we've got multiple layers of reality that are on top of each other. The most, the more, I guess that first layer would be all the pods and the enslavement. That second layer is the breaking free of the pods, and now they're renegades, trying to escape the bad guy. It's still the fight of duality after getting out of the enslavement, just from one enslaved position to another enslaved position, with the perception of more freedom, which is kind of where we're at now. And then you go into the architect's superposition of seeing how all the various games are being played. And I think that I would tend to say that that's kind of a little bit of what I'm slipping into is a compassionated superposition with everyone, no matter if they're knee deep and swallowed up in their belief in A, they're touching in with A and B, or they're, on the New Earth team. I'm more than like everyone is getting the opportunity to play out the reality story and understand then how they put their reality stories together. I'm doing it. We're all doing it. So that's kind of how I'm dealing with people on the outside world, no matter what level or percentage that I may perceive them to being still asleep, enslaved, awake. I'm somewhat divorcing myself of that position of where people are at, and because I recognize that's also a part of that old architecture, is judging where are people at. So I'm trying to step out of that altogether into that superposition of the architect, that everybody's getting, everybody's architect. So if I see myself as full agency, and I see everyone else as full agency, and everyone's been a little bit more empowered and responsible then.
Yeah. No, go ahead, Zach.
No, I admire Chelsea's ability to greet people where they're at without judgment, would be what I heard you say. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it. You're just seeing people where they're at on their journey, what level they're at. It's kind of like the Agent Smith effect, where like the lower side of the consciousness will take over someone and bring in like a trigger. Usually when someone brings up trigger words or tries to throw me off my game, I don't take offense to it like I used to. I just recognize, oh, this is what frequency this person is vibrating at. This is where they're at in their journey right now. But they've been Agent Smith in a sense, and they're acting out of a lower vibration, and it's not necessarily anything for the individual to be judged upon. It's more so you're recognizing where they're at in their journey.
I'd like to interrupt you and just kind of throw a
Go ahead.
little arrow at you for having judgment. So it just even having judgment. So I just wanted to throw a little interrupter out there because it's like that's not B architecture. B architecture is not, oh, you're at this level. Oh, I understand. You're just vibing at this frequency. So it's doing away with even those thought bubbles. So you're not in judgment. You're only taking temperatures, and there's not even a judgment to the temperature. So I'm just hearing the measuring stick in the words that you're using, Reaux, and I'm just trying to put a little pin in that there's judgment even in how you're stating what you're stating.
I see. Okay.
So a way that I would reframe that and look at it could be that if you run into that, it's to understand that if there's a trigger, you're looking at the world and all feedback that comes back to you as a mirror. And so if somebody is trying to, so it's really the measurement within yourself is, did I react to this? Then if I did, well, goody, because now it showed me, it mirrored within me a little place for me to go like, why am I caring about this? What is this here for? And so it's using it. There was somebody the other day that said, it was a video. It said, when you start out, it's you versus me, or it's me versus you. And then you wake up and you're like, wait, it's me against me. And then you wake up again and you realize that it's you with you. And then you're free. And so it just brings to me that we can look at the world as a mirror, and everything is giving us feedback to help us. So, and that was what I was going to respond to, is like, how am I interacting with people lately? And a few observations in that. One is less of those thought bubbles that Chelsea was talking about. So what does that look like? That was one of the messages, is you be your ecstatic, authentic person and be present as much as possible, and just do you. And don't worry about what you're going to, because I have done that. It's like, even, a trip to the store the other day, I was going to be connecting with somebody that I did. The first time I went, I didn't have a great connection with them. And so I was going back to the same store, same guy, and I had a phenomenal connection with him. So what allowed that to happen was that I didn't have a thought bubble thinking that I've already put this guy and pitted him, saying this guy's down here. He literally, I gave him $1 tip, and then we had a little bit more back and forth. And he goes, hang on, I got something better. And he goes into the cash register. He hands me this folded up dollar with a quarter on it. And he's like, that's a real dollar and that's a real quarter. And I was like, he's tipping me.
That's really cool.
And I left.
By a quarter.
Yeah. And I was just like, this is, and so another example, and I shared this with the WISP team, was like, I had 3 young people like crowded around me, and I was trying to interact with them, and it was literally like I did not exist. They didn't even blink to make it seem like, because I'm literally 6 inches bodily from one of the ones that was talking to the cashier, and I was looking directly at him, didn't flinch. So things are getting weird. And I'm also, one other thing is that I'm enjoying finding ways to break people out of constructed models that are making people live in these bubbles. So one of them is that we have these social norms. Like in our, like, how are you doing is the thing that we say. And everybody's got, they either got their default, you know, uh, yeah, I'm not bad. That's a very popular one. Or, and I'm good, or I'm all right. I'm getting through the day. Whatever it is, like it it's a programmed sense of how I can be a robot in social interaction, how I can be completely thinking about my scrolling through Facebook as soon as this person's gone, because I've already got the pre-digestion so I can get through social interaction. So they started doing fun little things that I found, well, which is, first, I don't ever say, well, I try not to say, and it's becoming a habit. I always say, what's exciting in your world? And that will oftentimes provoke either a higher level upticking, oh, I just got a new job, or I got a promotion, or they get to talk about something that's sensational in their world. And sometimes people say no, nothing is, and it's a down ticking. Well, I found another creative response to that, which is, and Reaux was there when I did it for the first time. And it was perfect because she fell right into my trap. I said, and that's a joke, by the way. But the whole idea was, if I started with what's exciting in your world, they went down a social norm, which is another day, another dollar, same old, just getting through a day. And I simply said, have you ever considered wonder? And
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
great,
how much
Curly.
you saw, Ro, of like her
Yeah,
face
like
was just like,
error,
it's like,
error.
and just
Does not compute.
just the facial, yeah, it does not compute, and you just see it in the face, and I'm like, at least I
Yeah.
broke a pattern, and I had somebody look at something different. And now it's not up to me to share, or to try to figure out if I fix somebody or whatever else. But I know I brought a different message to the table. And if anybody ever said no and they were interested, I would be like, well, we're tapping into this amazing things. It's right in the Bible. It is everywhere. Be like children, drop into wonder. Got great movies to share with you that are great for adults and for kids. And we can, and and that's the beautiful thing, as you say, you knew wonder when you were a child. You were
Yeah.
educated out of wonder. So
So we're
that's how I'm
programmed.
interacting. Yeah. So it makes interacting with the public for me more fun, and realizing that that's probably going to be more of my existence, as being more out there. But it's how I interact, and getting ideas from other people on how they chat with people and break people out of. Because to me, it's mischief. It's a great sensation that we all like. And if we're a little mischievous to get our jobs done, I mean, that's the trickster archetype right there, is to get people a little uncomfortable until they go, oh, humility. Yeah, that's what I needed. I needed a little humility. I needed a little lightness in my world.
Yeah, the other reaction we can shoot for is get people to laugh. There's something um, uplifting about laughter. So one thing I have a hard time saying the story because it's personal and you guys kind of are familiar with it. But this person was going down a very negative road, talking about how the world was probably going to get worse, and this might be the end, and we might not even be able to see each other again. And I was able to interject and and uh, sidetrack that train of thought. And I don't remember what happened. Well, I think it was after a couple other people's comments that finally that person shifted into laughter, and there was no negativity anymore. It just disappeared, and we were back on the uptick. It was like, oh, that's better, you know. But yeah, throwing a monkey wrench in the mind kind of a thing there. I'm not sure. The ego mind, maybe, I don't know what it is. Maybe it has to do with the identity of a person, um, and sort of knocking them off center so that they're not identified with whoever that person they think they are, and they're able to open up to new experiences. That's what I hear you guys talking about here. Is
Interrupting pattern, because
Yeah.
we're used to pattern, and there's like even a certain cadence that we're used to, so used to that half the time you could say, hi, how you doing? Doing great. How are you? And we wouldn't even have to use the words. All we would have to use is the tonation and in the cadence that we typically hear it. And that's exactly what we would be reproducing in our mind because of the patterns. So what James is cleverly doing, and how we can all kind of cleverly and in a fun way, is interrupting those patterns. And, you know, the movie, it's a Christmas movie, Elf, but, you know, just how he is with people. What's your favorite color? You know, you can easily inject little things that interrupt the typical patterns that we have with back and forth. So it can be, instead of how's your day going, what's your favorite movie? So, you know, it could just be little things like that to interrupt the normal back and forth, and that instantly will shift the mind.
Yeah. What I'm been hearing in this conversation here is we're dealing with ego, or ego mind would be another way, and that for me in particular, I realized I don't deal very well with ego. It doesn't really matter whose it is. It's just like I start to see it, I start to recognize it, and the next step is start to judge it, whatever. The last time it happened was I took the opportunity to use it as a mirror and say, oh, well, there must be some ego in me that's being offended by this other ego. So there's something to look at.
I got it.
Yeah. Go ahead if you want.
No.
Okay. There was one more thought there. So what I'm hearing you say, Chelsea, is that again, be like a child, be like a childlike manner. That's not quite how to say that, but and engage their ego. You know, meet them at where they're at and engage them at that level of where they seem to be resting, and then it's almost like James was saying, well, let's. Do you want to come out and play? You know, like find
Yes.
that child behind the ego that does want to come out and play, and then invite it forth or something to that effect. I'm learning something here, I think is what I'm saying.
So if we're broadcasting a certain radio frequency from our station, and it's the curious, it's the, you know, youthful wonder, love, creativity, whatever that is, we're just being the embodiment of that frequency, that no matter if we're walking into the store, going into do our chores, no matter where we are, this embodiment frequency, we're bringing it with us. And then others are invited to tap into that frequency that's running through them as well. Maybe they're not as familiar with it, but they're able to tap into it because we're bringing the representation or the embodiment of that. We're like the lamppost that they oh, I have a lamppost too, you know. So it's just in that way, and that's how I see it. So that it's not me ever having to do a calculation on how or who I'm meeting. Like the various vibration and frequency that someone is bringing to the meet of Chelsea. So Chelsea's having a conversation or meeting or store clerk with anybody. My frequency and vibration does not change to meet this person. It's there for that person to tap into. I'm not adjusting down. They have the opportunity to adjust up. That's all.
Yeah, that makes sense. Just tap real quick on the other subject with the judgment that I was doing about talking about lower frequencies or the Agent Smith effect. I think if I were to treat others more as like thought forms, because like when we have negative thought forms that come in, we can either entertain them or we can counter them with positive thought forms. And I've witnessed this like at the gas pump. When I had my Forerunner, someone came up and was like, "Oh, I bet that gets horrible gas mileage. You got the roof rack up there and you're hauling stuff and all this other stuff." I was like, "Actually, you know what? I get really good gas mileage." I was countering them. I was like, the cargo carrier is very aerodynamic, and I feel like it gives me more aerodynamics on the road, and I actually get really good gas mileage. But thank you. And they just shut up and turned away. But like you could just see them coming at me trying to do this low vibe thing, and I brought it and kept it in like a high vibe. So I countered whatever. But then Chelsea, as you mentioned, it was if I'm bringing judgment into it, then I'm seeing them as, I guess, separate from myself, and I'm not seeing them as an opportunity for growth, or I'm not using that. I'm putting separation between them, and instead of seeing it as me and me helping me grow.
Yes. Yeah.
So there's no separation. It's all me helping myself.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
So yeah, and this is interesting. Somebody in one of the ceremonies was just so delightfully transparent and spoke to their experience in the ceremony, which was extraordinarily judgmental. They were judging all the participants. They were judging how the ceremony was set up. Judge it, like they just had this judging mind. And what it took for me was, or what it helped me do is, I went, do I have that mind that does that? And I do. And I think we all do. And I just heard recently that that's a protective aspect of our mind. And the thing is that we have this idea that we want to stop judgment. But that's kind of an uphill battle. That's a very difficult thing, because if you're trying to stop judgment with the judgment part of your mind, you see that it's a bit of a rock between a hard place. You're just going to keep running into the same problem. You're going to live in an ironical state constantly, because you're going to be trying to judge your thoughts through that. And so what it made me realize, especially because it was plant medicine, was that I have that mind, but I have a really good relationship with that mind. That as soon as my mind starts doing that stuff, which it did, I recognize it, and I and I have a smile come to my mind because I have a sensation that comes behind it, which is, I'm so ridiculous. Look at me. I'm so ridiculous. Like, why would I try to measure this experience outside of myself? And what was so beautiful was that one of the themes going through that experience was, I am going to be present. I am going to savagely attack the present moment, and I am going to enjoy this experience no matter what. Like, this is the only thing. And what was really interesting about this is that I had very, very vivid visuals. So as I had closed my eyes, I had imagery that was coming up, like that went with the music and the fire and these kind of things. And it was dark. It was dark imagery. So like spikes and darkness. But through that was light. Like, there was just this knowing that these dark energies need to exist. And that, so it was, and so my vibration, the dark imagery did not change my vibration at all. And it was so poetic to me that I was putting on my noise canceling earphones, and I happened to put on Tool. And as I'm listening to this song and I've got my eyes closed, the imagery that came to me was, the lyrics are so powerful. If you have Pneuma it has a spiritual meaning behind it, and that's what the song is about, basically recovering from it. But then I said something out loud to Chelsea when we were listening to it together. I was like, this music represents the light coming out of the ground. And like, I just had this imagery of the light is just pushing out of the ground and coming up through the ground. And you can imagine that light has got to enter in all different ways. And the foundation of the ground is one of those places, the underworld, whatever you want to say to it. And the minute that I said that, Chelsea's like, oh my God, like I could see it too. And it's just, I guess my point is that you can have a relationship with that, and that thing that is trying to map your reality by judging what you see outside of yourself. And so it's, when you recognize this is happening, you're not recognizing it from the intellectual mind, but you literally feel your vibe go down. So if somebody says something to you and you feel that go down, it's like, like, if you think about it, it's a beautiful thing that we share. Like, we will accommodate people because we're loving each other. There's something in essence that's deeper than we can imagine, where we connect with each other and we love each other. And it's only through the mind and through separation that's gone. So one of those things is, it could be, this is something to explore, is that we just have this natural wanting to adapt to people. It's why people want to be sympathetic. So if somebody's going, let's say you just got a brand new job, bought a new house, and then all of a sudden your best friend loses their parents. It's like, you have sympathy that says, I can't be excited right now. So I need to go down and be in this other level. But that's the idea of growing and understanding that we actually do better if we keep ourselves at the highest level that we can give, and that is our gift, is what I'm realizing. Hope some of that made sense.
No, it makes sense. Well said. Do we want to touch on shared consciousness or telepathy? Some of these things are kind of fresh or new that are coming online that we've been playing with? See
Chelsea will.
grinding
Yeah.
gears.
I, yeah, I was curious on how much time we were going to do in this particular
As long as
stream
you want.
today.
Yeah.
With the okay. So shared consciousness. We want to talk about what Zach and I got to experience, and I got to experience some of that with James, and been kind of playing with it more and more since that experience. I have one word for it, and then I'll kind of punt it out there to the group, and then I can chime in. But it basically boils down to complete absorption. That's my my skill, or my I guess mode. James kind of touched on wonder being somewhat of a doorway also to get there, and each time that I was experiencing, of course you got to have the wonder to even think that it's possible, right? But then it was just complete absorption mode. So if I was a soundboard, or if I was just like a sponge, there is no other thought or anything other than just complete absorption. And it is the quality of that absorption that basically provides the level of qualia of the shared consciousness. So if I'm only able to go into, say, 25% absorption, I'm only going to experience that little bit of shared consciousness. But it's still to someone who's unaware that that's what's going on. You're feeling, oh my gosh, I just found my soulmate, or this is a kindred spirit. It's that understanding that we didn't understand that that's what it is. It's touching base on shared consciousness. When we can go into a higher saturation level, like 100%, then we're completely saturated, completely filled, and in complete absorption level. We're completely experiencing the shared consciousness, and that's why it was so otherworldly, because we got our percentage up there quite high. But I can see how it's varying different levels of saturation in an absorption mode. Like if that was the on off absorption, that's the mode you click into, absorption. So I'll throw it out there for everybody.
Be more present and not. Yes, it's more. I guess more of a presence is what you're explaining before. Just allowing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Zach.
Complete allowance.
One of the thing that comes up when we talk to people, and at least it does for me, is, oh, that reminds me of something. Oh, you know what I want to say next when I get a chance. And so it's all on a mind level. I don't know if it's directing the conversation. To some degree it is, yeah, directing the conversation, or making sure you have something to say if the other person stops talking or something. It's keeping the mind occupied. So rather than do that, one of the things that I remembered that happened was I was interested in what it was like for the other person and what they were feeling, and what it was like for them to talk. I mean, in other words, the attention was not it was not directed to thoughts or thinking or words. It was directed to what is the experience. So we were having a subjective experience as we were also having this objective mind-based conversation going on at the same time. It was, in some sense, the new word is multi-perspectival. Two perspectives happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're familiar with that that thing, what happens is it's like thesis, antithesis, and synthesis. For example, in that these two perspectives. Oh, and another example is like your eyes have a little different viewpoint of an object in the distance. So with two eyes, you can get depth perception. I think that's called parallax. But there's more information when you have two eyes looking at the same object or subject. So then this multi-perspectival experience of talking and feeling, we'll use those two words, object and subject, allowed for what appeared to be a broader sense of the moment, and for that matter, the space that we were occupying. It filled out, it came together, and there was sorry, my mind went to someplace. There was like an existence in the quantum field of consciousness where the flow was effortless, and we could communicate on different levels within that consciousness simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
One way to look at that.
Impressive. I love it. And I love that Chelsea and Zach have been on this, and it's a seed for me. And I think it's starting to come together with starting to feel like it's an energetic thing. And meeting somebody, instead of meeting somebody through the head from two different vibrations, but it's finding a vibration. And even looking at and playing with the idea that it's like, if I find myself at a lower vibration and I see Chelsea, who's a professional nectar collector, and she's flying out of the rig to go take a picture of a beautiful sunset, and I'm sitting there in my analytical mind or something, and I'm at a lower, it's like I just recognize it as a piece of data that says, I prefer her experience than I prefer my own experience. So can I then just mimic her vibration and tap into that vibration? And is that what we're doing, to the point to where it's just like, yeah, it's like we won't even say anything clever to each other. We'll just feel each other, look at each other. Maybe it's just looking at each other in the eyes. And that's how we greet each other. And it's like, and then you find the resonance through the eyes, and then you're just like, wouldn't it be best that you take the highest perspective? Because no matter what, what I have found from my own experience is that my highest vibe, I'm trying to use different words, but that's kind of it. Wherever I am at, when I'm high vibing, my thoughts are the best. What I share with are the best. The ideas are shared seem to have a beauty nature to them. So it is a beautiful thing. So if I'm going to interact with somebody, why do I want to interact with somebody where my thoughts aren't going to be at the highest caliber? Because to me, the idea of loving life is enjoying the beauty of it, the aesthetic. of life, and then recognizing we're the receiver of that beauty, but we're also the aesthetic ourselves. When we become in a higher vibration and we become beautiful, we give off our own fragrance, we give off our own sight, we give off our own art. So yeah, that thought just kind of dwindled right there.
Well received.
I want to add a little piece. I think I'm going to describe, Chelsea, I'm going to describe you as open-hearted, you know, joyful and liking to share that energy, that vibration with people, openness, outgoing, you know, a whole bunch of those words. That's that invitation. You probably even spoke to that earlier, but that's an invitation to meet you there in that field of joy. And it makes it easy then to begin, whatever that process, oh, I know what it is, whatever that process of dropping into the subjective reality of consciousness. And the objective reality can still be there and having a conversation and so forth, but now the focus is directed to the subjective experience, and let's play there instead of up here in the mind trying to describe something, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Would that be kind of like with the shared consciousness, is that something that is like channeling, but the person, how can I phrase this? Like when we see other people channel someone or something, a deity or an entity or whatever it is, where there's an open line of communication between the two beings. When you're doing the shared consciousness, one is just allowing or absorbing the other, but it's still there's a like frequency between the two in order to reach that open channel. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I question that because just because to not block anybody's reality and go the improv rule with the yes and. Let's say there is a channeler and she's able to go into her channeling and tune in the frequency of Elvis, tune in the frequency of Jesus Christ, tune in the frequency of Marilyn Monroe. These are all very different frequencies. So somehow there is, and this is us just speculating because we don't know. We're just discovering and seeing how this thing really works. And who knows how that is, but if we look at a basic medium, do they have to hold the same frequency as Elvis in order to channel Elvis? Or are they accessing, and this is what I think it's part of our limited architecture from A that's holding us with some of our ability to understand this. And so I'm just going to kind of leave it at that.
From my experience, when like if I were to want to summon a presence, which I stumbled across it and it was kind of weird in a sense, but I shared an experience that I had in Puerto Rico, and I shared a person's name, a picture of them, and then I shared a story about this individual. And the people that I had shared this information with, it like summoned the energy of this person that I was sharing the story about, and they started talking like her. They started using her lingo, like saying things that she would say, and I was like, okay, so I summoned the presence of this individual by doing these three things. And it's like I see patterns, and as I would do the same thing for other people, it would summon in their presence, and like it was like those three things is what brought that in. So it was like something I took a note of. Is there something that you and Zach do, or James, that you can tap into that shared consciousness again?
Well, there was another piece to it. Uh, it's kind of a funny thing to try to describe. There's a healing modality, and the first thing you do in the healing modality is you do a greeting the person. So you touch their sternum and then their shoulder blade for 6 seconds. And I had done that inadvertently with Chelsea, and then all of a sudden it was like this field opened up. And this would be my theory about what happened is we just entered kind of this quantum field, whether you're channeling that a person from that field or not. We just sort of entered that field, and it amounted to similar to what you said there, Reaux, about summoning in this other person's energy. There was a I don't know, call it summoning, but there was an opening to where uh, there there's an invitation to meet in the
There we
field.
go.
Would be the
Yes.
simple way to describe what I think is happening here.
I think I would agree. It's invitation. And even you, Ro, coming up with the name, the story, the the sequence of summoning, the summon, it's an invitation. So, and I'm just trying to think of other instances like my dog whisperer idea that's what he's slipping into when he's working with the animals is so it's permission with invitation, something that there is an allowance. So it's like an invitation and a permission. It's something in that. Yeah.
Yeah, not to make this too simplified or black and white, but going clear back to paradigm A, paradigm B is you can open up a portal to paradigm B, which would be like an invitation to step out of A into B. And as we talk about this, what I'm realizing too is we typically spend so much time up here in the mind, which I'm going to suggest that that's paradigm A. Let's call it paradigm A, playground or something, that we forget the subjective experience or the heart experience, the emotional experience, the felt experience that the body is having at any given moment, the different vibrations. And so once in a while, an invitation does pop up, and it's easy to step into paradigm B, is what I'm trying to make a simple explanation for. And now I'm remembering this video that you sent, Chelsea, about the people, and some of them were blind, learning to see blindfolded. And they would hold up their hand to feel the vibration of a color or an object, so they're inviting the field to open up, so to speak. And once the field open up, now they're able to see the color or the object that's in front of them. It's it's that simple mind. Well, I think James's Lynn Zafarian talks about this all the time. It's taking a different perspective. Like, wait, stop. I'm going to look at this differently. And so that suggestion is directed more in the area of what am I feeling rather than what I'm thinking.
So I'm going to seed you guys with an idea that just came from me, from what you guys shared. And like, I had this idea of vibes as this ascension up a vibratory level. And what just occurred to me was its frequency. And so, to give an example of that, had I had the experience that I had the other night, where I had all this dark energy, my analytical mind might have been like, okay, this is not good. I'm going to report to all my friends and let them know I had a bad experience. But what it made me realize was that perhaps it isn't a scale going up in vibration, but it's literally, and Zach, you're the electrical guy, you'll understand, it's the frequency that we receive that darkness. So if darkness comes, I have a different relationship with that because I found the harmony in it. Because I know that one of the gates that I had to pass was, and psychedelics really helped me, even though I kind of had my awakening to the matrix before psychedelics, but it was psychedelics that allowed me to have that imagery come up. And then I was just like, okay, let go, let go, let go. And maybe perhaps what I'm doing is I've just created a different relationship, a frequency. I found the frequency, the harmonic within that energy level, that I can meet it, but I don't have a negative connotation to it. And I'll just leave it there.
Yeah. I'm thinking I need to wrap things up, although I could definitely continue on. My seed thing would be fear, and how we, like, for the next one or something, how we look at fear, how we deal with it, how we transmute it, and so forth. I think that would be a rich field to play in.
Yeah, I agree. I have plenty of experience there. All right, Chelsea, what you got, Chelsea?
I have a suggestion for a future topic, and that we could discuss ego. And it was just something that came up in this conversation as we were talking today, about how we, we're, this strong ego that's trying to override everything and, tell us what we are and what we're supposed to be and all this. What about the person that has an underdeveloped ego? And so this is something that will just give us some seeds for, wow, there's quite a bit that can be looked at with discovering new things.
I love that idea. That's good. Yeah, fear and ego. Those would be a good subjects to touch on. A lot of people dealing with that right now.
Yeah. Because I kind of see the underdeveloped ego, and this is part of me trying to be a little bit more on the holistic side of things, and that's kind of part of my foundation is holistic medicine. So then I just think holistically, and I think about an underdeveloped ego. How do they get to developing their realization? How do they get to breaking out of that overlay that they haven't even really, it's like there's things of connection here that I think that we could explore, because I know I haven't looked at it, but there's things I'm thinking of just even as I'm speaking. I'm like, wait a minute, what about that?
Take notes.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up then. And I just want to thank you all. Thank you, Chelsea, James, and Zach for coming on. And
Thank you.
yeah, we really covered a lot. And that's good. This is going to be good. I'd like to set a date, I guess, for the next one, and yeah, keep tuning in. But love you all, empower you, respect you, protect you, keep you safe on your spiritual journey. Be good, do good, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care. All right, cool. It is done recording, and right now it's uploading, and then I'm gonna go ahead and do all the so Riverside FM can use AI to edit the recordings, but I don't like using it because it can take out like the pauses and the breaks and all that